Alrighty, so let's get into this week's converted build and chill. So now that we have VRMs, which is pretty awesome, we can start making our own assets to use as avatars. And in this session, instead of the usual build and chill, we're going to be doing a workshop to describe or show how to make VRMs. So we're going to be focusing on sort of using a faster approach of rigging and things. I'll look at more complicated ones later with weight painting and all that sort of stuff in Blender or whatnot. But today we're going to be focusing on just how to get a character that you've got into Blender. Into Unity as a VRM. Now, let's jump in. Oops, got the thing wrong again. One moment. One day, I'll remember to do this before I even start. That is not today. So, let's have a look. Now, so first, of course, you need, what are the requirements? Let's focus on that. So for that, we're going to need a character. Let me just check something. Now, of course, there's a few recommendations, I guess you could say. Let's put this. Where can we put this? Let's write this up in a doc and get that going, I guess, maybe. Just so we can all have that somewhere. All right. So let's go over VRM requirements. Sure. Can you spell requirements? Requirements. Yeah, there we go. So, things we need. We need an avatar, of course. So this, of course, is a model that you would like to create and put into Mona. Now, note in its current state, and probably indefinitely, because I think it's a better way to do it, is the collider, or the thing that bumps into other objects in a space, will not change. So it will be human-sized. So basically, I would recommend designing avatars, whatever they may be, to be about the size of your average character. So let's say that would be, on average, let's say 1.8 meter tall avatar in inverted commas, because it could be kind of anything. It could be this weird little tall house. It could be a large chicken. It could be a rolled up pizza. It could be a burrito. It could be whatever you want. But we do recommend that it needs to be around that to sort of make sense in its interactions. And when it comes to pretty much any experience, what you expect and what you get should line up. So if you had this massive house or this massive monster character that was like 5 meters by 5 meters by 10 meters, then it could walk anywhere because the collider will not be scaled up to that. And there's also the case of just being a nice person, in that having a massive avatar, one, probably wouldn't make much sense. Two, make the experience probably not very good for other people. So yeah, keeping it human sized is kind of best for everyone, to be honest. So that's what we recommend. You could do it smaller. I think that's okay. But say, for example, if you jump, the collider will stay the same. So there will be that thing with getting around and stuff like that. So keep that in mind. Smaller is okay. Bigger is not recommended. So that said, when you're creating an avatar, wait, hang on a second. I think we did this. Just gotta check something. Sweet. So a lot of this will be in the docs under VRM avatars, and because VRMs are quite a thing, we have quite a lot that we can look at, and we'll be looking at some of this today. So say, for example, VRM avatars is very easily done simply by pressing 4 or the avatar button and going import VRM model. And then you add your link. We have a couple here. We'll be adding to this as we can. If you have any public accessible VRMs, feel free to tell us in the Discord, and we'll put that in the list. So yeah, very easy to add. The only catch with at the moment, unless this was sorted, was at the moment you have to put it on a certain type of what do you call it? Server. So at the moment, GitHub, we found GitHub to be really quite easy to upload a VRM. So if your VRM doesn't work from other hosts, it may be possible to download that, grab that, and put it on the GitHub. This page here, once again, asset creation, VRM avatars, and uploading your VRM. We'll go over how to do that. So if you have a GitHub, if not, you can set one up very easily. And then you just create a new public repository, and that's very important. The only other element there is you will have to change the address of the avatar to something that is like accessible to use. So that's sort of like the small trick there. So whatever your VRM is, you can use that. I think I have that one there. I don't recommend use it. It's kind of very broken. So yeah, I should fix that. So yeah, get on that. But what have we got? So when it comes to creating an avatar, basically we need a couple of things. We need Unity 2020.3 to rig your character, so having a skeleton tell the character where and how to move. We can use Mixamo. You don't have to. You can make it completely from scratch in Blender or whatnot. So Mixamo is purely optional, but it does it very quickly and reasonably well. So you can do super fast but less accurate, or you can go into Blender and do it kind of quite slowly, or Maya or Max, whatever you like. And you can create a rig that way. UniVRM is our recommended approach to make the VRM. UniVRM is basically a Unity plugin, and that allows you to import, export, and modify VRMs. So we'll be using that. To my knowledge, and this is another useful thing that this does, is you can import GLBs into Unity with this add-on, and it's free. So if you have GLBs and you want to put them in Unity, you can do that. I haven't done it yet. I haven't tested it. I bought a plugin to do it, so I'll see what that looks like and then publish my results at some point. Cat's Blender plugin, I don't actually recommend. You don't need it for what Mona's functionality is. Cat's Blender plugin is a plugin for Blender and only Blender, but it helps with getting your avatar up to scratch in other areas. So say lip sync and blend shapes and things like that. We don't support that just yet. I'm hoping we do, because it'll be cool if we can, like when we chat, the avatar talks and stuff like that. But yes, so this is completely optional and probably not needed at the moment. We won't be looking at that. So, other things you need. Your avatar is recommended to be in a T pose. So basically like this. A lot of people create their avatar in an A pose, so with the arms sort of lower down. But when it comes down to it, by the time you export it in Unity, it sort of needs to be in a T pose. Now, there are several steps in the process that you can do this, if it isn't already. So we'll look at that. But yes, T pose is quite important. So let's have a look. Once again, recommended less than 2 meters in height. Generally looking at less than 50,000 polygons, or 100,000 triangles. This is very important. Because if you think about it, your avatar is one of many. And if you had 100, 200, 300 users or more, and say most of them or many of them were using VRMs, and each one was, let's say, 20 meg, which is kind of what we're sort of aiming for as a maximum, then you're looking at a very large download for a space. So not only do you have the 180 meg for the space, you'll have, let's say 100 times 20 is 2000 meg, which is basically 2 gig. Is that right? As a download. So yeah, basically you want your a VRM to be as small as possible. And generally speaking, the end result should be less than 10 meg. 15 meg is probably a good maximum, but 20 is kind of like a hard maximum. So I'd recommend that. Now, to do that, you'll have to keep your poly count down, your textures down. So basically it comes down to less than 50,000 polygons for desktop. Once again, this is also performance and things like that. To kind of, I would generally recommend 1 or 2 skin meshes total. You can have more, but I don't recommend it. And same with the materials. Now, note also, if you have a human-sized avatar, which we recommend, 2 2048 textures is quite a lot. And it's very rare that you actually get that close to a character to see that sort of quality. So I would probably recommend, 1 or 2 2048 maximum textures for materials total. That's it. So I'll probably adjust this once again because the file size is pretty important to keep as low as possible because everything is downloaded. So there's that. So once again, these are recommended sort of elements. And the thing is also, if you're future-proofing your avatar, future or mobile on standalone VR, that would even be significantly less. So 1 of everything, basically. So that's basically that. If you have any questions with any of this, feel free to ask in the chat. Or, of course, put it in the support or tech chat, I guess, would probably make more sense. Channels there. Okay, cool. Next up, we need a rig. Now, yeah, so let's have a quick look at that. So Mixamo, by the way, is a online Adobe product, I guess you could say. So you have to log in. Let me get on that. one moment. Okay, so this is a character that I've already imported. Basically this allows you, one, to download basically a library of animations. Once again, you can't customize animations in VRMs, that's the Mona side. But we have to make sure that our character works with those. So you can sort of test what your character looks like with a bunch of there's like 52 libraries of this, where you can sort of see what your character looks like. So very, very useful on seeing how well your character will work on animations. So that's fine. Now, we will look at this in a second, but yeah, so Mixamo is a animation tool, but what it also does is you can rig your character very quickly and easily. Like, it takes like less than 5 minutes. So that's one approach to that. Did I shut down? I think I did. Yes, I did. Okay, hang on. Let's pull that up again. Docs, Mona Gallery, asset creation, and VRM avatars. Okay, this one. Now, UniVRM is a GitHub thing. Basically, so you'll go to this, if you click on that link, go to the download, which is the releases, and the first thing you'll need is the latest of this. So you've got a few different ones. We want UniVRM Unity package, and then we can import that. So that's how you would get that one. And that's basically it. We won't worry about that one today. So those are the three that you need. Okay, so let's go into, let's get into a VRM. All right, so for that, what we need to do is have an asset. So we're going to use Mixamo. Yeah, I'm going to put this over here. I'm going to put this over here as well, so it's all here. All right. So I won't finish these because most of this is done on the dock here. So let's have a look. So first up, we need to... too many windows. What was I doing? Okay, so first we need to upload a character. Now, our character... you've probably made in Blender. So let's go... what's the best way to do this? I want to show the spring bones and stuff. So I'm going to... let's go with one I've already done. The Caleb character. So I can open that with this one. Actually, no. We just want to import the FBX because I don't want to have any bones or anything on this one, so I can show you what we can do with that. So where did I have that? Maybe this one. Let's give this a shot. Yep, that works. So this is an example of a character that I've made. This may or may not have the correct materials because of all of the things. But yes, so let's say you have a character here. This has too many meshes. You would actually want to join all these. So I'm going to show you the end result because that's actually more important at this point. And then we can undo it. So this is sort of the finished result. The problem is the model gets a little messed up after I went through Mixamo and came back. So this is actually fine. I don't know if this is a Blender issue or whatnot. But because nothing else changed, I thought it was okay and it worked fine. So if you get any issues where, let's hide that. If you get any really weird issues in Blender, after going through the Mixamo approach, you can kind of not worry about it, but it does make rigging and certain things more difficult. So I'll usually go to this mode, which still works fine. So not really sure why that was. If anyone does know, please tell me, because that would be good to know. So you would have not the armature in this, so that would be deleted, but you would have something like, so if I got rid of that, you would have something like this. So in this case, we have our two materials. So if I clicked this whole object, we've got that, but my Caleb character is like one model. So if I show that, if I click that, it's the whole thing. So this is one model and it has two materials. Once again, I just do that because it's clean, it's easier, it cleans things up, it's all one asset. I could do two assets and then rig them sort of separately as two separate things. But I have found that Blender has an interesting approach with how it applies some things. So if you have two objects selected and you'll do certain things, it will only work on the most recently selected one. So if anything, I will actually combine them all in the end and make sure that the materials are sort of set up correctly. So we have that. So if I go, let's put it in edit mode and go select, nope, select, that's like the body. And then if I go like that and go select, that's the second texture. So that is the approach to that one. And then we have it rigged. Now, your version would be something like this. Now, imagine you would have all of the objects joined together. So you could do that with join, and it will keep all of the materials that you have set. So you have the one asset and that. But once again, originally my character had too many materials, and I actually had to, because I was going to do that with like a movie or a cinematic. So I actually had to rebake the low polygon onto the low polygon in order to get that texture information onto refined mesh where two materials only. So there are ways to do that. Maybe I'll cover that in different tutorials, but basically two materials is very important. This is too many, even with file size. Even if you had them as small, it just gets messy. So, with that in mind, let's do this. I'm going to actually get rid of, so I'm going to unparent. And then I'm going to get rid of my mesh and then get it right up. Now, once again, I'm going to do Control A, all transforms, so it knows that that is the location. So this is our FBX, and that's fine. So let's export that one. I'm going to save this as a different one, so I don't go over the top of the last one, because that would be bad. there we go. Export. FBX. And let's go 7. Now, always go selected objects. If you have cameras, lights, and stuff, that will be that. And sometimes if there's no animation on my asset, I'll do apply transforms as well, because sometimes it doesn't do that by default. So, yeah. And then just go export VRX. So we can go back here, select the character. Now, where was that? 7, this one. So as you can see, it's quite small. Open. That'll take a little bit. So we've got that. Now, sometimes I have found that it doesn't like FBXs. And I'm not sure why, but it'll come up with an error that basically says, don't like it, go away. In that case, I have exported as an OBJ. So once again, export OBJ. And I haven't had any issues in importing an object into here. So if the FBX doesn't work, OBJ most likely will. So that's a heads up on that one. That said, this one does work. So I'm just going to go... once again, gives you some hints here as well. So I've got best results of the character T-pose and fingers spread apart. Use arrow buttons to rotate your character and have it front face forward. So you could actually... if you're facing the wrong direction in Blender or whatever, you can modify it there as well. So we go next. Next thing, we need to put these on our asset to sort of say where the rig is going to be, or the skeleton. So it's quite easy. So once again, just on the chin there. Yep. You have used symmetry, so I could, if you have an asymmetrical character, you can use that. I also recommend standard skeleton, so it has 5 fingers. So you could have 3 chain fingers like that, or you could have 2 chain fingers, depending on your results. But I found 5 fingers is definitely better. So put our wrists on, I guess you could say. So in symmetry, elbows, about there maybe. Knees. Now in my case, I actually have the coat. Now, if I tried putting it on that, because that's where the knees are, but it picks up that model, and that was kind of glitchy. So what I think it does is it will pick where the knees are, and then go to the bottom of that asset, which is the coat. So when it rigged it, the shoes were under the ground. So make sure that your knees are on the actual knees. And we can sort of modify that manually later. We've got the groin there. So there's actually no shoes. I wish there was, but there wasn't. And it sort of figures it out itself. But because if you have a character with a coat, it's a bit complicated. So there are ways around that. You could, like, quickly model the mesh to be sort of show the knees of your character, so it's easy to select them. Or you could say delete some of the mesh. Not delete. Remove the coat from the mesh temporarily. Do the rigging, take it back into Blender, and then add it again. So there's a few ways around that if need be, if you're not going to do the rigging. So just a small note on that. That is now done. Let's go next. Takes a little bit, but it even tells you how long, up to 2 minutes. That said, it doesn't usually take that long. So All right. Once it's rigged, it shows you. So this is pretty cool, actually. So even the fingers are completely rigged, and you can sort of see that effect there. This looks good. And go next. And if you have one animated or loaded, you have that sort of element there. So as you can see, the rigging is actually pretty good in Mixamo. So big fan of this, actually. And this saves a fair bit of work from weight painting in pardon me, in whatever tools that you're using, such as Blender, Maya, all of those. So now that we have our cool guy, I guess you could say, we can get rid of that and export our character. Now, there's a few different ways to export this, but I will usually sort of aim towards the Unity approach. So now that we have that, we can go download FBX binary, choose general, or FBX for Unity. Now, if you had your original pose, you could go back down if there's any problems that you found there. But usually I will sort of have a T-pose as well. That said, my original T-pose, my original pose is a T-pose. So I'm going to keep it sort of at that. So up to you. If you had an A pose situation, or otherwise, I would probably actually just set that to T-pose. So it really depends on what you're doing there. So I'm going to download that. And that. So let's put this on. Let's go with desktop, I guess. No, I should probably keep it all together. So note this is an FBX, so I'm actually going to name this Mixamo. Look at that. That's done. So that's all you need Mixamo for. So we can get rid of that one. Now, let's do this. So I'm going to hide that one and then import our FBX into Blender. Now, I don't need to. I could 100% take this into Unity as a VRM now, but I'm going to show a couple of things here. So mix mode, go. Okay. So as you can see, it has a rig that I've done, and notice how this position is a bit weird. So there's that. So the main thing I'm going to show in this case is you can edit that to be a little bit better. So I'm going to select the avatar, go to edit mode, select this, and then just go GX. There. Now, I think it's this one. Nope. There is a tool that allows me to do that. Where is that? Maybe there isn't? I thought there was. No. Anyway. So put that sort of there. Notice the location there. And there's maybe there. So it is possible to sort of edit your rig on a character if you want to or if you need to. And in this case, because the knees were a little bit weird, I can do that. The thing to note though is because this is rigged, you can't get too far away from where it is, simply because if I move that down, the rigging position, like the weight of that bone, is going to stay the same. So you kind of need it to be the same. So there's that. So that's fixed. And then I can export that. But one more thing you can do with VRM avatars is have a little bit more sort of secondary motion. So in this, I'm going to create a little bit, and once again, this is purely optional, but I'm going to create the scarf to move around a little bit more. So I'm going to do some quick painting in this session as well. So, note, purely optional. I could take this character, export it, and put it into Unity now, and that would work fine. But I want the scarf to have a little bit of movement because, as noted, you can't do custom animation, but you can do secondary motion with what you call spring bones. This is in the doc as well. So we've sort of done we've rigged the character, so that's done. And now we're getting to sort of refining the rig. And once again, this is very optional. So we are going to add a bunch of bones. And I've done some on the sides as well, but we're just going to focus on the scarf today. To use spring bones. Now, spring bones allow you to, so if I had, let's say, a long hat, that's an easy example, I would do a bone from the head going up, and the secondary animation would basically, hang on, I gotta go do this. So when I move that way, it would sort of go that way and then go straighten up and that way, sort of thing. So you have that, a weird example of what spring bones can do. Now you could use this with cloth, you could use this with like long ears, I'm gonna use it with a scarf. There's all sorts of interesting stuff you could do with spring bones to add that little bit more life to your character. So I'm going to do that. So this, of course, could be with any creation, like 3D creation tool. I use Blender, so I usually use that. But Maya, 3D Studio Max, and all of that. I'm assuming that Revit and Rhino does not do this. I doubt they would have rigging or anything like that. So that's one element that Revit and Rhino won't be able to do. But yeah, Blender is free, easily accessible, and lots of learning resources for that. So let's jump into creating some bones. All right. So we are going to add some bones to our rig. So just select the rig. Yeah, so we do that. Go to edit mode. You could also press tab to hotkey that one. Now, my approach to creating bones is to grab another bone and duplicate it. So say, for example, I want the scarf to come down here, and I want that to be sort of this bone here to be a parent, which is also the parent of this bone. So I'm going to duplicate this to keep that element. So Shift D goes to that. And then I can sort of move it around. Now, one thing you'll probably want to do is make sure that, well, not make sure, you can make sure that your bone points are kind of on a vertex point, because that's where the change will be. You don't have to if it's going to be sort of like a smoother transition between points, but that's the thing. So say, for example, we want it to go there, where it is. That said, it's over here. We don't want that. We actually want that to be here. And once again, more forward. So that's creating a spine. Not a spine, a scarf. Now, to expand on that, we can just press E. And that will add a bone to the end of the rig on that. So E, and then E again. And sort of you want it a little bit beyond the end of that. So I'm going to put that there. Maybe move this one down. Once again, less bones is better. And notice how that's out. One thing that might be useful is putting a snap on and volume. So if I do that, it sort of snaps to the exact center. Now this is super useful for fingers. So it will adjust those properly to be in the middle. Like moving bones manually to be in the center of a finger is really annoying. So that's quite a useful snap function to use when you need it. So we've got that. Now in this case, because this is rigged, and I kind of like those 3 bones, I'm just going to duplicate that instead. So go X there, and adjust again. Now note that this one is much higher. So I'm gonna adjust these as needed. Like so. Another thing you might want to do, and this is very important with rotation. So if you're doing local rotation or things like that, especially on your avatar, so you want the elbow to bend properly, you can use roll here. So I'm going to move that a little that way. That one's okay. So click on that. And as you can see, this is a perfectionist thing again. So you can use roll to sort of rotate your assets, the bones, if need be. So I sort of want them to go sort of that way. So easy to do. There we go. Sometimes it's important to sort of see the direction of an asset, but there we go, I think. I don't think that's it. Here we go. Maybe? I'll have to look into that. But sometimes... sometimes, like, it's very useful to know the angle of the bone. That didn't seem to do what I hoped it did. So not exactly sure how to do that, so I'll look into that. That's an interesting one. Anyway. But yeah, there are ways to sort of see all of the bones and their direction. Yeah, anyway. So that's that. Now, if I go back to object mode, and then, or actually pose, if I rotate this, and once again, this is all rigged because of Mixamo, this does not move, which is great. Although, I might want to actually... Well, let's try that. So, if I wanted to parent, at the moment, they are parented to that bone, so that worked well. But let's say if I move a shoulder, the top of the scarf would actually work. So let's say I want to parent it to this. So left click on, back into edit mode. First select the child, then select the parent using shift. Then go right mouse click and then go parent, make, and keep offset. Now what that will do, I'll do this one while I'm there. What that will do is when I rotate that, it will do that, which is good. Now the thing is, the reason I might not do this is if I have a jump, the scarf would go up like that, and that would be where it would returns to, if that makes sense. So it's good in theory, but scarves don't do that. So I'm probably actually going to go back to the original for that reason. So there. All right. So we have our bone. Now that we have our bones, we need to rig our scarf onto those bones. Now, I have found weight painting in Blender to be a little bit terrible. Is that the best way? I think I'm getting at my hang of it now, but in comparison to 3D Studio Max and probably Maya, weight painting hasn't been the best experience, but I'm finally sort of getting a better feel for it. So I will tell you what I've learned, but I will completely understand if it's not great for you, because it's not great for me, and I've been doing weight painting for a very long time. So keep that in mind. So let's have a look. Now, weight painting is a different category of mode, which is up here. Now, one of the things with Blender is I can't select bones if I just do that. So one way to get a little bit more control over the asset is first select the avatar. First select the rig, then with Shift select the avatar, and then go weight painting mode. That way you can actually hold down Control to select different bones. So that's super useful. Otherwise, you have to go in here and like basically select the things here. And that's fine. You can also do that 100%. Depends on what you're about. There are different ways to sort this. So sometimes you want to do it by sort by hierarchy, sort by name, depending on how well you've named your assets. And on that, I have these are terribly named. So I'm going to actually fix that now, because that's pretty important. So go to Edit, click on this. Where's the best place to do this again? Maybe here. Yeah, here. So this is now called left shoulder 001, 001, which is not what we want. So we want left scarf. And stick to the 001 actually. So I'm going to keep that. So I'm going to double click that, Control C, Control C, Control C. This is the right one. Control C. Nope. Wrong one. So let's try that again. Right scarf. And this is number 1. So I'm actually going to copy all of that. Now this is actually pretty important because we're going to reference these bones later in Unity. At least these two. So yeah, naming is very important. So highly recommended. So I'm happy I've done that because I forgot it the first time and it really annoyed me when that came up. Okay. So back to weight painting. So once again, avatar, rig, avatar. Okay, there we go. Shift. And then weight paint. So you can select these. Now these do not have anything rigged, and that's what the pink is for. But things that do will be blue, and the weight paint there. So you can clean this up if anything is not great. So I was thinking maybe of moving this back to the point so that the hand moves a bit better. So maybe I'll look into that, but not too worried about that for now because I just want to focus on on this because the information is the same with how you do it. So, click on the bone you want. Now, if I want to paint something, we have the brush here, we have weight, like how strong do I apply the vertex weight to that bone. So this is like a 1. So if I do this, all of the red is going to be 100% on this bone when that bone moves. And then you have the green, which is like 50%, and then you have this blue, which is 0%. But as you can see, even just quickly, I've already painted areas that I don't want to do. So that's quite messy and difficult to do. So one thing I would recommend is hiding parts of your mesh. So to do that, we use Paint Mask and select. Just get part of the mesh that you want to hide and go Control L, and that will select the whole asset. And I'm going to do this with a few of the assets here. The only thing I don't want is the scarf, basically. So I'm going to get rid of the pants as well. Control L. And in any mode, if you press H, it will hide it. And as you can see, there's still some other assets there. So Control L, hide. We've got... but it looks like I must have selected part of the scarf as well. So Alt H to unhide, basically. So let's try that again. We want that. We want that. Let's see if we can get that without. Well, let's just do that. H. So yeah, everything but the scarf I'm going to hide. The same thing, and that will make weight painting so much easier. Don't worry about the fact that the lines are here. When you go to painting, it will disappear. So that's cool. All right. Now, because you're using weight painting, though, you actually have to select all of this to weight paint it. So once again, Control L, but I'm not going to press H because that's what I want to paint. Go to draw, and as soon as you do that, everything else goes away. And then you can select with that off, select the with that off, you can select the bone that you want and then put it back on. So once again, a bit annoying, but this I have found to be the most accurate or easy a way to do these sorts of things. So, well, that's interesting. Yeah, so I selected it, but I can't select the bones. So usually I'll take that off, select the bone, put it back on, and then paint. So that's a thing. You can use vertex masking as well, but I usually use the vertex for that sort of thing. All right. So what we're going to do is basically paint our asset on the bones that I want to use, like so. Now there are other ways to how do you call it? Assign weights, I guess you could say. So once again, if I select these ones, and I think it's in this, so we've got spine, we can sort of put that up and go assign, and that'll go 100%. I have an add-on that I bought that allows me to do that here. So that's quite useful. So there are many different ways to do it, but yeah, whichever one works for you. The other problem sometimes is that ideally, especially in games, you want bones. Actually, you want a vertex to have the equivalent of maximum one weight painting. And that's a lot easier to understand. So if you have like 0.7 and 0.7 on two different bones, that will work kind of correctly, but it's not great. So one thing to sort of help with that is this one here, which is auto normalize. So if I have two bones, let's say on these, so this is 50% on this bone and maybe 50% on that one, that will equal 1. But if I increase the weight on one, the other one will auto decrease, which is kind of what you want. So auto normalize is very useful for that sort of thing. So for that, I'm going to... Actually, I want to do this. No, sorry. I want to get rid of that, select this one, and then do that. So what I could do is get all of these, and then assign that at 100%. So assign. And it doesn't work. Actually, I want to check something. Yeah, because nothing is... because that hasn't been... That vertex group hasn't been assigned yet. So yeah, Blender, great. So instead of that, I'm going to actually do... Well, that's not bad, because I don't want to touch that anymore. That said, once again, this one, select all of it. Make sure that it's all of it. And then go like this. Now, so what I will usually do, especially with something like this, is I will assign all of the polygons to the top and then work my way down. That way I know where this auto normalize sort of thing goes in. That's down there. That everything sort of has a weight. So I've got that. Now this one, for example, you can use to sort of blur, which is quite useful for cleaning up stuff like that. So very useful. All right. So once again, let's go. Make sure to put it to the right bones. Cool. All right. Different bone. We want this one. Why didn't that work, Blender? Okay, I'm going to try something. I need to test something. So pose. Yeah, so it's working. Yeah, I get super frustrated with Blender's weight painting. But everything else, like, I love Blender for a lot of things, but the weight painting is not one of them. So not sure why that doesn't view. So I'm just going to do that. Make sure that's there. And then soften that out a bit. So we've got that. So you kind of don't want that to be 50% on bone joints. Now with this, I want this to be all smooth, to be honest. So I'm going to probably test this a fair bit. And once again, of course, spend the time to do this well. So you get that sort of smooth effect for cloth. If it's too rigid, and I'll probably be able to show you that right now, it won't look great. So I can do that, and that. Now make sure that the median point isn't selected. You want individual rotate origins. So when I rotate, they will... that's local. Global. Yeah. Why isn't any... Oh, because it's on edit. My bad. Pose. You'll be able to do that. So as you can see, it's a bit of a mess. Now, one way to do this a little bit more obviously is go to remote mode, go to pose, press I for inserting a keyframe, so location, rotation, and scale, and then go to, say, frame 10. Grab the things you want to test and rotate that with this circle on, so that whatever changes you do will be sort of correct. Now I could do this with all of the assets, so the legs, the arms, the fingers, so that you can sort of do a quick test on how it animates. So I'm hoping when you go to object mode and then go weight painting, you can have it like this. So once again, weight painting is a bit funny. Let's try blur. The thing is also, you sort of want to put strength to, like, say, 0.2, and then you can sort of paint things like bit by bit, which is kind of another effect you may want. So that's straight at least, and then well, I guess we don't need that because it's out of the way, so that's good. So then you can create the sort of transition between things as you need to. So it is possible to do it. Well, it just takes a bit of messing about. That said, and once again, like Maya and Max are better for weight painting. Blender does some things great, but this is not one of them. So there's that. Okay, so that's good. Let's make it a little higher. It's not bad. And let's put that down to 0.1, actually. That's good. Then we can get this one. And once again, these are like, so once I do that, and then I go here, like these have been normaled out. So that's a good example of why we would bounce between the normalization, because that's actually what we want, but that also means that you have to be a little bit more careful in regards to how these are sort of mapped or weighted between assets. So there's that. So we got that. That seems smooth, so that's actually quite nice. And then you got that. Cool. That's good. And as you can see here, we don't have any at all. So basically, let's get that on here. So once again, we get some ones. Let's just do that. And then we got this one, and do the same. All right. And then I'm hoping, yeah. Let's put that down to, let's say, 0.3. All right, so that works. Soften that up a bit. That up as well. So that sort of works. So we have our scarf, basically. So let's go in object mode. I'm going to go to pose mode and get rid of this though. And do that. So we have our FBX. Also, because I've done this very incorrectly, make sure to turn this off when you've stopped animated. Sometimes you'll do like all these things with that on and then realize that everything is animated and it's horrible. So highly recommend making sure that you turn that off after you've moved the asset. So yeah, there's that. Okay, so let's see where we're at. So that's refining the rig. Once again, I go into this a little bit. So adding bones and weight painting. Now, once again, on this document, because weight painting is a whole thing, especially in Blender, it's a super simplified version of being able to do what we've just done. So yeah. That said, there are tons of tutorials like on YouTube and whatnot in regards to weight painting in all of the tools. So if you're using 3D Studio Max or whatever, then you can definitely do that. So we've got that. All right, so we have our character. Let's export that. So once again, FBX. Let's go 7 again. Final. That works. Selected objects. Yeah, that's it. Export. Okay, so next up, we're going to import UniVRM. So once again, get UniVRM. So get that Unity package. Do I have that? Well, let's do that now. Just to make sure I have the latest version as well. Click on that. Save it. Put it on, well, put it wherever you like. I'm going to put it on my desktop. Done. I shouldn't delete that just in case. So let me figure that out. Space backup. Could be anything. That said, I'm going to unzip this one so we can have a new project. Extract here. And let's do, I'm going to name it this time, VRM tutorial. Cool. Desktop, VRM tutorial, open. So, once again, new template, who dis, load space scenes. Actually, what am I doing? I'm not making a space. Cancel that. Okay. So I'm actually going to get rid of everything. Although you might want the directional light because that might be useful for you. So that said, this doesn't have to be a Mona space at all because we're making VRMs. But that's fine. So I'm going to import the Unity package, and for that we're going to go Assets, Import Package, Custom Package. I put it on my desktop. It is here. Open. You'll get this. There's a lot. Like a lot. That said, I will usually just go import. So note, you do not need the Mona template for this at all. It can be just a standard Unity package. Now, when you install it, you actually get two new menus up the top here. So you can export GLBs, you can import GLBs from this as well, which is very useful. But the main two that I've used so far is export and import. So we'll be using that to create our asset. So let's pull up our asset here. So we need... Actually, I'm just going to delete all these, because once again, that's added by Mona. So I'm going to create a new folder called Caleb, because that's the name of the character. He's one of my favorite characters in the Critical Role campaign 2, so that's why he exists. Okay, so we want 7 final, so our FBX. So I can go there. We want our textures as well. So in this case, I've got the 4. Now, the only ones I would add is maybe metallic and metallic smoothness to get that, but for now we are not using that. And then we need to create the materials. So let's do that. So I go body, duplicate that. Now I would probably actually import these as 1024 rather than 2048. I don't think the difference is that big. And once again, you very rarely get up close to the character. So there's that. So we've got head, let's say. So body and normal. Now, when you import a normal, Unity has to know that it's a normal, so you can either do that there, or you can select it here. So if you notice the diffuse, that is default. Body is normal map. Same with head. Fix now. All right. Now, for this, we actually do everything on the material. So let's put the materials on the asset. So these are the names that are exported from Blender. So make sure those names are more correct than bodyload.art002. So the body goes on that one, and the head goes on that one. Go apply, and you can see the result there. That said, these materials have a very high smoothness, so I'm actually going to put that to like 0.05 probably, and metallic will stay at 0. Now, of course, some of it is metallic, but yeah, so that's where the metallic and smoothness map would play a role. So we've got our two assets. Animation, not important. Model, not important. Rig, very important. The first thing you need to do is change this animation type from generic to humanoid. Create from this model, apply. right? Nothing changes, but it kind of does. Now, the next thing we need to do is check configure. So Unity has this amazing system of sort of like creating an avatar properly. And to make things sort of universal, they have this humanoid mode of an avatar. Now, the thing is, you sort of need the correct bones to connect them, and some of them are optional, some of them are need to be there sort of thing. So, for example, all of these dotted ones are optional, so I don't need a spine or a chest. Those two I don't need. Shoulders you don't need, you need the upper arms. There is a head. I do have eyes, but I don't have bones for the eyes, so I can't look around. There is a jaw. So there's a few things where if I had the asset, I could drag and drop it in here and make that work in the basically the universal avatar. Because we used the the standard avatar export on Mixamo, it has 5 fingers, which is great. So yeah. Now the naming here doesn't matter because it will fix it up, basically. So that's what we want. And then we just go done. So if there's any red, you can fix that up by sort of dragging and dropping the bones into their correct slots as needed. But because we use Mixamo, exported as a Unity thing, that might have something to do with it. It's all very, very okay. Now the scarves, of course, don't matter. That's not part of the rig that this needs to know about, so we don't have to worry about that. So we have that. Now, if I wanted to, I could 100% export that. So I could drag this into there. And have that selected, and then I could export to VRM, and then all of this comes up. So on that, I'm going to import my biopic. I have a little picture somewhere. Where did I put it? Maybe in here, I think. So much stuff. Here we go. So I made a little biopic there that I can add here. So you can use this and select that, or I can just drag and drop, which is much easier. So you have a thumbnail for your avatar. You need a title. So Caleb Widogast. We have an author, The Matt Empire, with a small M. Contact information if you need it. Let's put Monaverse, because that is the coolest name for a website, which Mona now has. Reference. So usually I'll put, like, if I'm referencing something else. So say for example, Caleb Widogast, Critical Role Campaign to character. Oops. Roll, comma, campaign to character. Cool. So credit where credit is due. Now, these are kind of standard things for all VRMs. You can allow them for violence. You can allow them for sexuality acts, or not. Don't really know how that works. Mona definitely hasn't got that yet, because we don't have any of those animations. And you can also allow if it's allowed for commercial use or not. I'm going to say no, because it's a kind of a property there. Other permission URL, so you could have like what is the licenses or other permissions, references, things like that. And then of course you have a bunch of license types if you want. So in my case, redistribution is prohibited. So you have a few options there that are quite useful. This is another location to make your character a T-pose if you haven't already, but I have. Mesh, blend shapes, and export settings I don't use because we don't use a lot of that stuff yet, so not important. Version. You do need it, so point. This is 3, I guess. And then export. And then export it to where you need it. So let's keep it in the scene. So let's just go Caleb final save. All right, so that's done. Now, so this is just the FBX, and as you can see, there's nothing here. So I'm gonna get rid of that because now I have this Caleb final, and if you go down, it has stuff. So exporting, importing means it sort of sets it all up for you automatically. So that's how I do it. You could do it by yourself, but why? So we've got that. So we have our information here, which we've done. This all is very, like, it's important, but I don't use a lot of it. A lot of this functionality we don't use yet in Mona. We might eventually, but when you export it, it will add that anyway, so you just leave it for now. What we do want, though, is secondary. So secondary is where we start doing the spring bones. So it has the thing here that we need, and we can sort of start playing around with our scarf pieces. So for that, the simple version where it just sways like into the mesh and whatever is root bones. So we have 2 root bones for our scarf. So we need to find them, however. So spine, 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 left scarf, right scarf. And then you have the 3 bones. So the name is super useful because we want to drag that here and we want to drag that here. And as you can see, it has those the 3 bones on each. You also export an end, so note that is actually normal. So we've got that. Now note this is just the root bone. I don't have to do every single bone. And then if that's all I have to do. So if I go play, and then scene, and then click the parent, we have a scarf, which is great. So that actually looks pretty good. Now the thing is, if I go that way, it's great. If I go that way, I go through. So all but one direction is fine, but we kind of don't want that. So that's where we use collider groups. Now collider groups is basically a collider on the model, not the scarf, on the model that these will hit and sort of bounce off. So the thing is, this kind of physics is quite expensive, so to keep your performance up, you probably wouldn't want more than 2 colliders on your assets. And these, like down here is where the problem is. So up here I wouldn't worry about it, so I would probably put one around the vertex, not the vertex, the pelvis. So let's do that. So about the hips, yeah. So around the hips, I'm going to add a component and go VRM and maybe do collider or just co. And then we have this one. So VRM spring bone collider group. Yes, please. So that ball is what these other balls will not hit. So sometimes I think it's these balls, not the lines. I could be wrong, not too sure. But let's have a look at that. So go to the hips and go to the collider and do this. So we want a bigger radius. So I'm going to make it pretty big. And then you can sort of move these around. So I'm sort of going to do that. So when they hit, it goes around that way. So that's kind of all I need to make that work. Now this won't work yet because I need to tell the spring bones which ones are colliders. And to do that, we do that on this spring bone script again. So back to secondary, we have our root bones, which are that, and we have our collider groups, and we have 1. And then you drag whatever you put the collider group on, so in this case it was hips, it could be any of the other ones, but I want hips, and put that on the secondary, so that's there. So that said, once again, press play. Go to scene. Game can be seen if you have a camera, so you could skip a stop if you wanted to put that in there. Select the parents. That works well. So I've got that. So I could, if I wanted to, put one up above, but I don't think... yeah, maybe I will. Yeah, let's do that, I guess. I don't like it, but we can put 2 bones on there, and then the position of that. Actually, no, I'm going to put this on the chest, actually. So remove that. Spine 2, yeah. Once again, embiggen. The thing is also, make sure that you don't make it too big, because then things will like stand out too much. So I'm gonna maybe put that down just a little bit. And then maybe move it down a bit. So you sort of have that, and then I can make it bigger, like so. Get that vibe there. Once again, back to secondary, and then add spine 2, was it? Yes. If you try and drag something in there that doesn't have the collider, it won't work. So I know that works because it actually worked. So let's have a look at that version. There we go. So much better. Now with a scarf, that's kind of the effect that I would like. But if you wanted to, you could like make make it more stiff, for example. So let's say put this to 2 and see how that goes. Once again, parent. So as you can see, it doesn't move as much. So it sort of depends on what 4 is the maximum. Parent. So as you can see, it's very stiff now. So of course you can play with the settings there to get the effect that you want. So if I wanted to, I could actually probably put this down to 0.3. Well, actually, let's see what 0.1. Nearly gravity. So you got some interesting effects that you can do with that. I actually liked 1. That was really good. Gravity power, like there's a lot of things you could use. Gravity direction. So if I wanted to, I could actually do sort of like -1 and see what happens there. I'm not even sure. Yeah, not sure about that one. So yeah, fair bit of room to play with things there, and you got drag forces as well. So you have certain elements there. Sometimes you might have spring bone set where the center is like off the center, so that I think, from my understand, they will reset to the center position. So I used this once and it didn't work. So far the best results I've had is having nothing in there, but occasionally you might need that to change the center location of the spring bones. So you can use that as well. You can change the collider size if you wanted to. So it depends on. So as you can see, the collider is the circle, not the line. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to undo that. And because I'm pressing play, none of this will save. So there's that as well. So say, for example, if I put this to 10 and then I go stop, this will change back to the settings. So if you're playing something, any changes you make will not be saved. So I've learned that. Actually, I haven't learned that because I keep doing it. where you'll have it in a play state and you'll not save those. It's very annoying, but hopefully you can remember all of the settings you set it to. So that's it. So I'm going to put this to maybe 0.3, but everything else I think works well for this. All right, so we have our avatar done, basically. So once again, click on that. Go to VRM, export to VRM. I think I used import from VRM, didn't I? And then export to VRM. Ah, no, I dragged and dropped. So you can import the VRM using this. And then you would click the VRM that you exported to do all this. But let's do that again. Small note, there is Japanese up here as well. VRM is kind of, it comes out of Japan. There's a lot of VRMs coming out of Japan, mainly because this whole thing comes from that. But luckily they've put an English version up as well. So, export. I'm going to put this over the top of the last one. And I think the last one was in here. Nope. Where did I put the last one? Okay, let's put it in here. Yeah, there it is. So I'm just going to override the last one because it has more information. Up to you if you want to do that or iterate. Completely up to you. So that's it. We've created a VRM. Congratulations. Now, next up, we need to... So what are we up to? So that's that. So importing VRM, which we've done. Creating the VRM, also done. So once again, just importing it, add the materials, add the rig, and put it in the space just to make sure it's all okay, and export. And that's it. If you want to, once again, completely optional, you can do spring bones, which is refining the VRM. So we've got the secondary element there. We've got the collider groups down here, which we've just done. And the last section is uploading your VRM. So putting it on GitHub. We're looking at other sources, so it makes it a bit easier, but GitHub is the one now. The main thing is renaming. So let's do that. So GitHub. Okay. Okay. So basically we've got this. I've made a repository. So if I wanted to, I could do new. And go through this again, which is basically name the repository, give it a description if you want to. Oops. New. Make sure it's public. If it's private, we can't see the VRM, so it has to be public. README file is up to you. All of these. Choose a license. You could do that as well. Once you fill that in, you can go create repository. But as I already have one... As I already have one, I can just click on this. So, got that. And then I've already got Caleb Widowgast, for example. But for that, we can basically go back, VRMs, and then go add file, upload files, and then choose file. Now, you can drag and drop, or you can find it manually. So in the Caleb, and what did I call it? Caleb final VRM. I think that's it. So select the file, go open. Now you have to wait until this is done, I think, before you hit commit changes, or I find that is better to do it that way, and then commit changes. And there it is there. So once again, I can go to this, and I think it is copy path. So if I do that, nope, not that one. I can go to this and go copy permalink. Yes, that's the one. Okay. The catch is, with this, we actually have to rename it so it's accessible by Mona. So this is what we've got here, but we actually need to change it to sort of this. I recommend doing it outside of Mona at the moment, just so you can have a bit more control over it. So github.com needs to turn into... That's my fault. I pressed Control C just before doing it. So this one. Try that again. That. Disk page, VRM, and then after that we need to change it to sort of other things. So username, which is diskmage, repo name, which is VRMs, and then main. Now, if you look here, that is the main. Some people, if you have older repositories or something, will have master. So make sure that that is correct, and you can find out there. So let's have a look at that. VRMs main, VRMs main, and that is our link. So I'm going to copy that. I'll leave it there. Let's go to the Monaverse. All right, which space should we use? Ooh, they've changed it. That's cool. Where would... We need a sort of fantasy space. Where's a fantasy space? Kind of this one. Let's go to Marsgate. So Caleb's a D&D character, so I'm going to this situation. Alright, so once again, I'm going to press X to get rid of that. Get some groove on. Now, we have a couple of choices. If you press escape, you can go avatar. That will come up. Another option is, of course, pressing 4. You have Ready Player Me for previous Ready Player Me characters, or you have Import VRM, which is currently in beta. And then we paste our address and go, return doesn't work, you have to go load. It will look like it's loading. And then we have our avatar, which we created in the last hour and 50 minutes. So I got that. Looks very cool. And that scarf looked great. So as noted, the animations are what we've set it at in Mona, so any extra bones cannot have custom animations. So basically you sort of need to create any secondary motion with the spring bones. But then you can get that, which makes your character a lot more interesting. So we've got that. So we've got our scarf running about. Now, of course, it goes through the arms and some other things, but once again, you want to keep those colliders smaller, because otherwise you'll have some issues. That said, there are ways to sort of create or improve your assets to work in that way. So we go. We need some sun. Can't see him. There we go. All right. So that is creating a VRM. Now, of course, we meandered through a lot of it. There's a lot of stuff to do. I will be creating like more controlled tutorials over time. But in a stream, I can do whatever I want. And just go on random tangents. So yes, there will be more controlled tutorials coming soon. That said, all of the information for creating VRMs is basically in the docs as we speak. So note, it's all under VRM avatars. I'm trying to clean up the docs because we're starting to get a lot of content. So trying to make this as clean as possible. So keep an eye out for arrows on subcategories because some areas will be deeper, I guess you could say. So there's that. Okay. I'm going to wrap it up there. Now, in 10 minutes, we actually have another event. So I will be jumping in with the Dolphin Arc crew, and we're actually talking about getting game-ready assets. So if you're coming from architecture or like pretty much anything but game development, I will be discussing ways to, or things to look out for when you're trying to make a Monaverse, which is more limited experience because we're in WebGL on browser. So there's a lot of techniques and things you need to worry about with that. So feel free to check out the Discord or check Twitter Spaces for the Dolphin Arc Twitter Space. So hope to see you there. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up there. Let's go back to the finish on this guy because it's cool. There we go. Alrighty. Hope everyone has a great day. Good luck with VRMs. Looking forward to seeing what people create. And we're going to call it there. Happy... Is it building if it's an ROM? Happy creating. I'll change that one for that. Alright. Catch you later.